Shabbat Shalom! Sometimes I do wonder about the method behind the madness in dividing each week's Parsha into 7 aliyot. Rabbi Yosef ben Rabbi Abun's words are recorded in the Jerusalem Talmud, Megillah 3:7, as saying, one who stands up to read in the Torah needs to start with something good and end with something good. The 6th aliyah of Vayechi begins at an odd spot towards the end of Jacob's blessings over his sons. In fact, this aliyah opens with the blessing of Benjamin, his youngest son, his last son. It's the last blessing. He says, Benjamin is a ravening wolf. In the morning he devours spoils, and in the evening he divides plunder. And the Parsha ends with Joseph assuring his brothers that he has no intention of taking revenge on them for what they did to him now that their father has died. He says, "Yet you yourselves planned evil against me, but God planned it for good in order to bring about what we have this day, the salvation of many people." These are good in that both the prophecy of Benjamin and the words of Joseph show us that the people of God will ultimately be victorious over the enemies of God through the power, provision, and miraculous salvation of God. We see this in judges from the tribe of Benjamin, like Ehud, who led their people to victory in battle, and in the work of Yeshua, who, like Joseph, brought salvation to the world. However, these verses are just bookends of this aliyah. The middle of the 6th aliyah tells us the story of Jacob's burial. Before he dies, Jacob is very specific about where he wants to be buried. Bury me in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, that is next to Mamre in the land of Canaan, in the field that Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite as a property for burial. There they buried Abraham and his wife Sarah. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah, and there I buried Leah. Jacob is very specific. And this request is very important. Although his beloved wife, Rachel, is buried near Ramat Rachel, which is along the patriarch's highway, Jacob's wish is to be buried with Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, and Leah. What is special about this plot of land? First, this is a family plot purchased by Abraham. He purchased this land, and it is legally his. It remains the legal property of his descendants to this day. Genesis 23:17 through 20. It is located in Hebron. Second, Jacob's insistence in being buried there shows how strongly he trusts in God's promise to give all the land of Israel to his descendants. Occupying the land shows faith in God. Before he left the land to go to Egypt, God reaffirmed his promise. He said, "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will turn you into a great nation there. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I myself will also most certainly bring you back up." Genesis 46:3 and 4. This aliyah sheds light on what is going on in our world today. Above the cave of Machpelah today, there is a mosque. However, this is not really a holy site for Muslim people. Islam did not even develop until the 6th to 8th centuries of the Common Era. And Muslims trace their descendancy through Ishmael, not Isaac and Jacob, which means that Abraham is the only patriarch of theirs even buried in this place. The promise of God for the land is given specifically to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not Ishmael. Archaeological evidence today shows that Ishmael may be buried as far away as Yemen. So what is going on? There is an enemy. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. 1 Peter 5:8. This enemy is a liar. This enemy says that the Jewish people are like a ravenous wolf, like Benjamin, committing genocide against the Palestinian people, all while the truth is that the goals of Islam cannot be reached while Jewish people remain in the land. Israel is under attack from all fronts because Islam calls for the genocide of the Jewish people. Any place that is holy to the Jewish people, Islam claims for itself. This land is where God chooses to put his name, and he will ultimately be victorious. This land is where he calls for people from all nations to come and worship him, the land from which the Torah will go forth, Isaiah 56:7. This land is important to Jacob because it is important to God. The descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are called to be a holy nation, a nation of priests, as they leave Egypt to return home in Exodus 19:5-6. This land is for the Jews, and from the Jews a Savior arises, and this Savior will bring salvation to everyone in the world. This salvation is available even to the descendants of Ishmael. We do not have to be physical descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to gain this salvation. We do not have to become Jewish, but we do have to follow the Jewish Messiah, Yeshua. As the nations of the world came to Joseph to buy food and to be saved from the famine, so the nations of the world must recognize the ownership of the land of Israel, God's purposes in setting his name there and appointing his people to dwell there, and choose to follow Yeshua the Messiah. Shabbat Shalom.